I was watching Saturday Night Live last night and started out with, I think his name is Fred Amundsen, being Barack Obama. And he tried to give a tutorial to the American public on how much power the president has, and he went through this list. And it started out with Congress. I think the next one was Lady Gaga, followed by Oprah Winfrey, and it went down. He was around 12. But it was a really interesting list, and it made me wonder if we were to take one's spiritual life and give it a ranking in terms of what one values in life, what one values in the world. I think it would be important and helpful to you to make that list and really see where does it fit, having a spiritual life. You know, in Maslow's hierarchy of needs, which you probably all read about in high school or college, you know, it was always ranking at the top was survival, eating, breathing. I forget the list itself, but I know that spirituality didn't come high on that list because you had to take care of all of your basic needs first. And that's really true for most people. The basic stuff tends to come before there's any consideration of having a spiritual life. But once the idea of a spiritual life enters the picture, where does it fit in the hierarchy? And each one of you has to look at that. And it's rarely number one. You know, I mean, sort of like the list last night. I'd say on top of people's lists may be Dancing with the Stars. And then, you know, Justin Bieber. I don't know why I'm in music mode, but what is it? What is it that's important? What's important in your life? Maybe your children, maybe your career, your job, making money, having a roof over your head. I mean, and these, of course, are really essential and important. But where does this spiritual notion sneak into your consciousness? My experience is it first makes an inroad somewhere in your childhood to adolescence. Something happens to almost everybody who's certainly in this room that tells you that the world isn't what it appears to be, that there's something else going on. It's like a momentary insight. Sometimes it's bigger than momentary. Sometimes it's a full-blown awareness, huge opening of conscious thought and perception. I had to look back at my own first awareness of all of this, which was playing in a sandbox at the age of about 4 or 5. And I remember sitting playing in the sandbox, and it was the middle of the daytime, and I suddenly realized that the sky was completely dark. There was still sunlight, it was still completely bright, but the sky was completely dark like nighttime, and I looked up at it, and the sky was like the entire crown of my head. And where there would normally be stars at night, there were these swirling forms that Ezekiel described as wheels, and you can describe them as galactic form, things spinning in colors all over. And I remember being like, it made no sense to me. Of course, it did not make sense, because why shouldn't the sky turn completely black in the middle of the day, and why shouldn't there be things spinning around? But it was years later that I realized it was my first indication that things weren't what they appeared to be. most people have something like that. Sometimes it comes out of a dissatisfaction with life or a dissatisfaction with the moment that they're living. Something that goes, I need to look into this. Or it could even just be a true, honest, open-hearted search for truth and meaning. Why not? And it begins to enter into the system. And it begins slowly to rise in importance, especially when so many things in life that were important either don't pan out the way you thought they were, or don't look as good as you thought they might look, or aren't as satisfying in the end as they appeared to be or that they promised to be. So this spiritual thing keeps going, well, it's like a question mark. Like, so then what really is happening? What is this? What am I doing here? Who am I? These issues start to really rise up. And at some point, they might actually initiate a search for meaning. And for most people, they will come through the guises of traditional form, religion, philosophy, reading, talking to certain people. It might even get you to explore things like meditation. Meditation meaning a secret way, some way to arrive somewhere else. Somewhere other than where you're at. Somewhere other than this dissatisfying space that you find yourself in. And so many people arrive at this particular class, or many other meditation classes, saying, show me more. I know there's more. I want it to be other than what it is for me. Some people sense that life's an illusion, and they're looking for the reality, the truth. Some people just want a better job, want to find love in their life. And they think this might be an answer. And in a way it is an answer, but not always the way people want it to be. Some people think they'll come here and they'll meet somebody. In my particular case, they think they can show me a screenplay and it'll help their career. But what you find is different. You may find, as you sit in this class, this softening of this area in your chest that has been perhaps tightly held for a long time in your life. And it just starts to let go a little bit. And you start to feel good. You might even call it love. Opening. Sweetness. Compassion. All of these wonderful, sweet feelings. And as you start to feel these feelings, you start to be more open to people. And the more open you are to people, suddenly you attract people who appreciate your opening. And they arrive in your life. And the next thing you know, you've met the man or the woman of your dreams. And you go, oh, I did it. Done. My spiritual life paid off. It brought me what I was looking for. Or it brought me a career. Not that I necessarily can help you with your screenplay, but I can help you with your creativity. How do I help with creativity? Well, this space here is a source of endless creativity. And as you enter into your heart, or even into your expanded mind, into your throat's ability to express itself as words and ideas, as you enter into all of that, you may actually find the ability to express yourself better, to have more insight into the world around you, that you find things now you want to say, and it makes you creatively vibrant. It may make you a really good salesman. It can do all sorts of things. It can bring you a lot of worldly satisfaction. And if that was at the top of your list, then spiritual life starts to drop down because you got what you were looking for. And I see that all the time. I see people come here wanting something, and it's not spiritual. It's not about love or openness or transformation. They want something that makes them happier and more effective in life. And that's wonderful. And you get all that. But to get that and leave your spiritual life is to miss it entirely. To miss the whole idea of what this is about. Rudy said, spiritual life begins with making your bed in the morning. And so many people don't want to hear that. Because there are a lot of people who don't want to make their bed in the morning. Why should I bother? You know, I'm only going to get back in it at night. I'm only going to throw the sheets back off. Why should I put them in some array, some appropriate, refreshing position? And it's because you greet the day with consciousness. You greet the day with an appreciation for the fact that life is a continuum, around and around. You don't brush your teeth one day and say, I don't ever have to brush them again. You don't make your bed one day and think, okay, I did it. It's a repeated, cyclical effort. If you aren't willing to use your material life as an expression of your spiritual life, you won't have a spiritual life. Spiritual life is not about sitting in a cave somewhere and becoming totally free of the world. It doesn't even work. You know, any of you who have done 10-day retreats or 2-month retreats or anything like that, still have to come back and deal with your parents and your in-laws and everybody else, the people at work. You still have to deal with the world. And I find that many people who go on retreats and come back don't deal with the world well at all. They're in conflict within minutes of arrival. Spiritual life is a day-to-day effort. And it's an effort until it becomes effortless. And I've described this before. I'm not a runner, but my son is a runner. And I watched the years that it took him to build up a capacity as a runner before he could do a marathon. I watched the effort involved. I watch how he trains even now. And what he describes to me, and what I think is so beautiful, is this moment you arrive at in running where there's no effort. You break through the wall, the resistance, and suddenly it's happening and you're not doing it. The problem for most people is they never make enough effort. And they never make enough effort because either they don't want it enough, or they're lazy, or they don't get it, or they just think it will come to them. But it doesn't just come to you ever. It comes to you when you've made the effort. I used to write screenplay after screenplay after screenplay and never sold a thing. But writing and writing and writing and writing finally brought me to the door where I was a writer. And I was able, ultimately with some good fortune, to sell a screenplay and even make a career. If you sell a screenplay out of the box, if you just write your first screenplay and sell it, the next thing that happens is they want you to do another one. And if you don't have the muscle, and you don't have the capacity inside to write more than one screenplay, that next moment is not a gift. It's torment. Making the effort in advance really brings you to the place where you are ready to fulfill what you have been given. So spiritual life is a practice. It's an effort. It's a daily effort to try to do something which you can call being open, being still, being available, being forgiving, being in a state of surrender. If you practice this and practice it, at some point it takes over. At some point you are the thing you practiced, and you are that with no effort. You just are. The road to spiritual truth or spiritual awakening is a road. It's a path. It's not a path that's terribly well described for people. I mean, people can tell you their path, but ultimately it has to become your path. There's nobody else's path will work. And you discover that. And you discover all of the effort it takes to truly live a spiritually vibrant life. A spiritually vibrant life allows you to make the bed in the morning without being totally angry at the world, or even better, being totally angry at making the bed and doing it anyway. Doing what you have to do, day after day after day. And if you do that with a conscious principle, a kind of an awareness that this is serving something higher, meaning a awareness of what life is, some higher spiritual truth, some larger principle, working every minute of your life for something beyond itself. Everything is sacrifice to this idea of awakening and truth. And that gets down to the hierarchy of value. If you're working for money, chances are you'll get that. If you're working for the love of the people around you, you may get that. If you're working for recognition and ego satisfaction, that may come. But every one of these things will have a temporary aspect. You may lose the money, you may lose people's respect, you may lose the love, and you will find that the things you were seeking had no permanence. They did not satisfy in some ultimate way. They were impermanent and temporary things that you devote perhaps your entire life to getting. The spiritual journey, putting spirituality at the top, means that you do all of those other things in pursuit of that which is not impermanent, in pursuit of that which endures, and that which is endless, infinite truth. That's what you're really looking for, if that's at the top of your list. So everything becomes about that. Everything becomes about that search. No matter what happens in your life, it informs something higher, something greater. And in that way, everything you do takes on an aspect of being instructive, of being a teaching. You learn from it. You grow from it. And if you're really working at this idea of letting go of yourself, which is at the highest end of spiritual work, letting go of you, letting go of everything, true surrender, you will see that every gain that you get in your life is an opportunity to let go. You can let go of everything. Interesting what happens when you let go. nothing goes away except your attachment to it. You suddenly become free to be with and one with everything, without thinking it needs to serve another purpose, that it needs to give you anything. You just become open to and alive to what is. This mind-ego filter that wants to claim anything for itself, that wants to limit you into thinking you are somehow separate, worse than, or better than anybody else, ultimately prevents you from touching the truth. But when all of this stuff falls away from you, when your spiritual life really succeeds in letting you moment to moment let go of this and let go of that, and it will bring you everything to let go of. It will bring you love, it will bring you success, it will bring you all of the things you wanted in life, or that you, let's say, need in life. Because sometimes you have to let go of failure and not getting, which is just as important as letting go of success and getting. That's the same muscle. The mind just treats it differently, but learning to let go and let go finally brings you to this place of it lets go. Or, more precisely, you discover the thing that was holding on doesn't really exist. The ego mind is not what it appears to be. The ego mind is not you. The ego mind is this construct that has been building since you were a year old. It's filled with your mother's voices and your father's voices, your peer group voices, your teacher's voices. It's built up of all of these fears and tensions and hopes and ambitions. It's this incredible controlling entity that you, in the end, are working for your whole life. And it has no ultimate truth. And you learn that because as you start to let go of it, you feel freer and freer. And then, in that moment of breaking through the wall, basically the wall disappears, and all of the effort that you've been making in spiritual pursuit suddenly evaporates. And what truly evaporates is the thing that's been trying to do it. The ego self, the mind, this thing that's been looking for its own fulfillment. That's the very thing that goes away. And when it goes away, all of that stuff it was seeking out, that it was reaching for, begging for, hoping for, is there, but there's no one to own it. There's no one to have it. The very thing that was doing the reaching brings you to the point of not needing, of breaking through that thing which you thought defined you. It goes, and then you sit with that for a week, a month, a year, 10 years. Wow. And you become free of you. And the very thing you were looking for all along was not the getting, it was the letting go. The very thing you thought would bring you happiness was the thing that was preventing happiness. The very thing you thought was going to give you everything you ever wanted was preventing you from having anything that you wanted. And when that goes, everything you are, hope to be, would ever dream of being, everything you've ever wanted in the universe is already there. It's just there. Arriving at that, it can happen spontaneously, but it's like selling a first script. Then you got to work for it. If it just happens and all that falls away, then you got to sit there like Eckhart Tolle did for 2 years on a park bench going, wow, wow, what was that? Or you spend your life working and working and working, letting go, letting go, letting go, letting go, and then all of a sudden, there you are. Once you find there you are, you also discover you're still here. Discovering you're still here is the new lesson, the new stage of spiritual work. It's a different kind of effort. It's not an effort you seek out, it's an effort that's brought to you. It's living life, if you will, in service of something higher and greater. You don't have a lot that you need to do, you have a lot that you need to be. And that's the next step of spiritual work. You need to look at your own life and figure out, what are you valuing? What are you putting at the top of the list? Where does spiritual life fit in? And be real with that. If you don't want it, don't go after it. If you don't love it, why give yourself over to it? The truth for me about spiritual work is that it's all I ever hungered for. And it has brought me just about everything there is to be brought. And the only lesson I've had in getting as much as I've been given is the knowledge that I don't have it, that it's not mine, and that it's impermanent. That it all has to be let go of. And that the letting go of it is the greatest joy there is. The only way that can be communicated to any of you is if you are willing to make the effort to get to that point. If you can bring that pursuit to the top of the list of what you value in life, transformational things occur. If you don't, they don't. It's kind of your choice. And in some way, it's not even your choice. It's happening to you. But if you play your side of the coin and you bring whatever you can to this bargain, the universe will give you what you're looking for. You know, I describe it fairly often as a parent, and the child begs and begs and begs and begs and begs for something for Christmas. You know, it's very hard to turn that child down. Same thing with your spiritual life. If you beg and you beg and you beg and you beg and you want, the universe will deliver. It cannot not deliver. So check your list. See where you're at. Any questions?
Regarding effort, how do I know if I'm working hard enough, and is there a thing that's working too hard at it?
I used to tell people, grade your effort. Give yourself a grade. So, you don't have to tell me personally, but how do you grade your effort? If you're A+, then you're working too hard, probably. If you're a C, you're not working enough. Excuse me. Too much effort is an obstruction. You can really obstruct your own work with trying too hard. A lot of people do that. I know people who, let's use screenwriting again. They're on draft 412. They had to let go of that like 400 drafts before. And they don't. And why don't they? Because they can't get past their own effort. So there comes a point where you have to surrender and let it go, really, more often than not. I mean, it's sort of steady as you go. That's how I look at it. An effort that comes in, you go to the gym. If you go to the gym once a month, that's not a very satisfying effort. If you go 14 times a week, you're probably got a really heavy goal going for you, and it's probably creating some tension and problem in your life. You go 4 times a week, or 3 times, or whatever it is, you're probably maintaining health and things are good. So you balance it out. Figure what's right. I always tell people sit every day for their spiritual life. I say half hour a day. I mean, a half hour a day. Some people go, oh my God, how would I ever find that much time? Some people go, I'd like to sit for an hour or 2 hours a day. Some people I know sit for 3 and 4. I go, wait, where's your life? The idea is to have a life and to bring this into the life and make it part of your life. Let it all be part of the same thing, because in the end it is only one thing. So it's just a matter of understanding that for yourself. You know, each person will be different. Anyone else?
As you were talking about a hierarchy, I kept thinking of it more like an integration, like it being something, hopefully, that you're able to integrate into all these things rather than...
Well, I'll tell you, I agree with that. But if your spiritual life is like on the rung 14, probably is not going to get integrated very well. You know, it'll be something. It'll be four Sunday mornings a year. That'll be your spiritual life. That's not integrated. What that is like people go to church once in a while or synagogue. It's like, it appeases something, but it doesn't do much. It doesn't build much. Assuming there's something to be built, I'm saying I think there is, but some people may not feel that. And maybe in the highest sense there is nothing to do. But if your life is really good and lovely and you're having a wonderful time and everything is perfect, I don't know why spiritual life would kick in other than the idea that you're going to die. You go. So all this perfection and sweetness and light is all going to disappear? What does that mean? That is often the note that makes people go, I should look at something else. But, maybe you don't even have to do that. Maybe you can just live a life and it's wonderful, and at the last moment, click, you're gone, and you just embrace the totality. I mean, I think there are people in the universe who could do that. But I think there are a lot of people who can't. So mostly, if your life is in any mode of struggle or working where you need to get more from it, where you need to juice it up more, where you need to be more alive in your life, spiritual life is a way to do that. It's a real way to do that, and it becomes more important when you realize how effective it is. How effective just sitting for half an hour a day is. I mean, it's amazing what it does in terms of giving you something most people don't get at all. Most people go through week after week, month, year, decade, and they've never sat still for a moment. Not for a moment. And the whole secret of spiritual life is in that stillness. It's in that little portal that you find in the middle of stillness. So not to have that is to live in the endless noise and disruption of a daily life, which can drive you crazy, and does drive most people crazy in some subtle way.
I think too, when you say spiritual life, I think that just for myself, well, for everyone, how you just conduct yourself with dealing with people and situations through minute to minute.
Well,
not about going off and doing this.
Well, one of the great thing about Rudy's teaching, which I always loved, was that your spiritual life was your life, was your daily life. That's what I love about this practice. It's not going off somewhere else, but it's also not just living your life being a nice person. That's not enough. It's really not enough. You can do that. There's nothing wrong with it. It's good. But, for many people, being a nice person is an ego identification. It's another form of holding on to a kind of persona that's really not you. I know a lot of people, I had that a lot, the good guy, being a good guy. It's a very non-threatening situation. It gets you through life pretty well. People kind of like you. It feels good. It in no way gets you to a spiritual place. It basically keeps you from confronting the very things that will push you into a harder, stronger, more dynamic practice. Anyone else? Okay. Next week's class is on Sunday. The 3 weeks after that will be on Saturday because of various holidays and things. And then in January there'll be 1 or 2 more classes on Sunday. And I'll send out some kind of an email about all that. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.